Hey everyone, welcome back. So today we're going deep. Yeah, into the world of emotions. We're going to be looking at some excerpts from a book called Master Your Emotions by Thibaut Meurisse.
Okay.
And we're going to be kind of dissecting it and seeing what we can learn from it.
Sounds good.
So, I think everyone listening has probably experienced like those knee-jerk emotional reactions.
Oh, yeah.
The ones where you're like, why did I just react that way?
Totally.
And then those patterns that you just can't seem to break, no matter how hard you try.
Absolutely.
So that's what we're going to kind of unpack today. And one of the really interesting things that this book talks about is why our brains seem to cling to the negative.
Yeah.
Even when things are going pretty well in our lives.
Right. Like, why is it that we focus on that one bad thing instead of all the good?
Exactly. And the book says it's all thanks to evolution.
Oh, evolution. Always coming back to that.
Right. So Tell me a little bit about that.
Well, basically, our brains are hardwired for survival. Yep. So they've developed this thing called a negativity bias.
Negativity bias. What's that?
So it means we're primed to focus on threats.
Threats like what? Are we talking about saber-toothed tigers?
Well, not exactly saber-toothed tigers anymore.
Okay.
But, our brains haven't quite caught up with modern times.
Gotcha.
So even though we're not facing life or death dangers every day,
right,
our brains still react as if we are.
So what kind of things would trigger that negativity bias today?
Well, think about it. You could get 50 amazing 5-star reviews.
Okay.
But that one, nasty 1-star review, that's the one that just sticks with you.
Yeah, I hate that. It's so true, though. Why do our brains do that? It seems so unfair.
Well, back in the day, way back.
Back the man days.
Exactly. Being really tuned in to potential dangers.
Like a saber-toothed tiger?
Well, maybe more criticism from the tribe.
Okay, yeah.
Could mean the difference between surviving or not.
Right.
But these days, that same negativity bias can make us overreact to a snarky comment online.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Or obsess over a minor setback at work.
Mm-hmm.
It kind of blows things out of proportion.
So how do we stop this?
Yeah.
How do we stop our inner caveman from hijacking our emotions?
Well, first, you got to be aware of it.
Okay, awareness.
Once you understand that this negativity bias is a thing, you can start to question those automatic reactions.
Hold on a second, caveman brain. Is this a real threat or are you just being dramatic?
Exactly. Is this something that's actually going to harm me?
Right.
Or is it just my survival brain overreacting?
Okay, I like that. I'm definitely going to try to be more mindful of that.
It's a game changer.
It really is. So speaking of things that can kind of hijack our brains.
What's next?
Well, dopamine.
Oh, dopamine. The good stuff.
Right. Meurisse talks about dopamine too, that feel-good chemical we all crave.
Yeah.
But he says it's not all sunshine and rainbows.
No, it's a bit more complicated than that.
Right. So tell me, what's the deal with dopamine?
Well, dopamine is this powerful motivator, It pushes us towards things that feel good.
Mm-hmm.
But the problem is, in our modern world, it's so easy to get stuck in this dopamine loop.
A dopamine loop.
Yeah, constantly chasing that next hit of instant gratification.
Oh, I see what you mean.
Scrolling through social media.
Oh, yeah, totally guilty of that.
Binge watching shows. Even, in extreme cases, there was that story of the gamer who unfortunately passed away after playing for 58 hours straight.
Wow. Yeah, I remember hearing about that. It's just so sad.
It's a really tragic example of how powerful dopamine can be.
Right. And how it can be kind of dangerous if we're not careful.
Exactly. It makes you think about what we're really searching for when we reach for our phone or, turn on the TV.
Mm-hmm.
Is it actual happiness and connection? Or is it just a quick dopamine rush?
That's a good question. I think I'm definitely guilty of chasing those dopamine hits sometimes without even realizing it.
We all do it.
So what's the solution? Do we need to avoid all those things?
No, not necessarily. It's not about dominizing dopamine or those activities altogether. It's about being aware of the potential downsides, and asking ourselves if those habits are truly bringing us joy.
Or just keeping us stuck in that loop.
Exactly.
Okay, so we've got survival instincts, negativity bias, and this dopamine double-edged sword. But Meurisse also talks about another player in the game of emotions, the ego.
Oh, the ego.
Right. And he goes beyond just basic pride or arrogance.
Oh, yeah. He takes it way deeper.
He explains the ego as this constructed sense of self, always trying to validate itself and make itself stronger.
Right. And it does that by attaching to things.
Attaching to things. Like what?
Like possessions, beliefs.
Oh,
even our physical appearance.
So like someone who's really obsessed with their looks, or someone who defines themselves by their job title.
Yep. Those are always the ego tries to prop itself up.
I've definitely seen that in action. Like think about those parents who live vicariously through their kids' sports achievements.
Oh, yeah. That's a classic example.
Right. Like their whole identity becomes wrapped up in their kids' success or failure.
It's like their kids' wins and losses are their own.
Exactly.
It really makes you wonder, like, what's driving those intense reactions, right?
That's a good question. Are we really just, like, celebrating our kids' success?
Or are we feeding our own egos?
That's deep. Definitely something to think about.
For sure. And, we'll explore this ego thing even further as we go.
Because it turns out this ego hunger for superiority can manifest in some pretty sneaky ways.
Oh, yeah. And sometimes not so healthy either.
All right. Well, I'm definitely intrigued to hear more about that.
We'll get into it.
But for now, we're going to take a quick break.
Sounds good.
And we'll be back in a jiffy to uncover more of the secrets of Master Your Emotions.
Can't wait. So you know how we were talking about the ego and its hunger for superiority?
Yeah, it was super fascinating.
Well, get this. It can show up in, like, the sneakiest ways in our everyday lives.
Like what? Give me an example.
Well, just think about it. Like those people who always feel the need to, like, name drop famous friends.
Oh, yeah. I know exactly me.
Trying to impress, Or how about those who just love to gossip?
Ugh, yeah. Makes them feel superior, right?
Exactly. Or even, like, those people who just can't admit when they're wrong.
Oh, the always right people. I know a few of those.
It's like they're so attached to being right, even when, like, all the evidence points the other way.
Yeah, it's like their ego just can't handle being wrong.
Exactly. And it all comes down to, like, this need to constantly compare ourselves to others.
Which never really ends well, does it?
Not really. It's like this endless cycle of trying to prove we're better than everyone else.
Exhausting, to be honest. But okay, so Meurisse talks about all of that, but then he goes in this totally different direction with emotions.
Oh, yeah, that's where it gets really interesting.
Because he challenges this whole idea that emotions are either good or bad.
Right. Like we always label them, don't we? Happy, sad, angry, good or bad.
Yep. And he says that's not really accurate.
He sees emotions more like pure energy in motion.
Energy in motion. So like not something to be judged or labeled.
Exactly. It's just energy flowing through us.
Okay. I can kind of get on board with that.
Right.
But like, what about those really strong negative emotions? The ones that feel, overwhelming.
Like anger or fear.
Yeah, those ones. What are we supposed to do with those? Just let them wash over us.
Well, Meurisse suggests it's not really the emotions themselves that cause us suffering.
It's not. What is it?
It's the way we interpret them, the stories we create in our minds about them.
Oh, the stories.
Yeah, the judgments we layer on top.
Can you give me an example?
Sure. So, like, if someone is grieving a loss, it's natural to feel sadness, right? But if they start telling themselves, I'm never going to be happy again, or it's all my fault, that's when the suffering really takes hold.
Oh, I see. It's like those thoughts amplify the pain.
Exactly. And those thoughts come from our interpretations, not the emotion itself.
So it's not about trying to avoid difficult emotions altogether.
Not at all. It's more about learning how to relate to them differently.
To change the story we're telling ourselves.
You got it. And to help with that, he introduces this concept called the emotional ladder.
An emotional ladder. What's that?
It's this idea from Esther and Jerry Hicks.
Okay.
They suggest that emotions exist on a spectrum of energy, like on a ladder.
Okay.
And like anger is actually higher up on the ladder than depression.
Really? Why is that?
Because it carries more energy.
Oh, wow. That actually makes so much sense.
Right.
Like I've definitely experienced that. Like when you're feeling really down and people tell you to just cheer up.
Oh, yeah. Oh,
it feels so invalidated. You can't just force yourself to jump up the ladder like that.
Exactly. It takes time and the right support to move through those lower energy emotions.
It makes sense now why trying to force positive emotions when you're not feeling them doesn't really work.
Exactly. Like forcing gratitude when you're actually feeling depressed.
Yeah. It feels so fake.
It's about honoring where you are emotionally and letting yourself process those feelings authentically.
This is all making so much sense now.
Yeah.
So it's not about erasing those difficult emotions, but understanding that they're part of the process and we can choose how we respond to them.
Exactly.
But that brings up another question. How do we actually change those like deeply ingrained thought patterns and reactions?
Ah, yes, the million-dollar question.
They feel so automatic sometimes, like I don't even realize I'm doing it.
Well, that's where Meurisse gets really practical. He provides a whole toolbox of strategies to influence your emotions.
Okay, I'm all ears. Tell me everything. What are these strategies?
Where first and foremost, prioritize sleep.
Sleep. Seriously.
Seriously, the book highlights how crucial quality sleep is for regulating our emotions.
Okay, yeah, I can see that. I'm definitely crankier when I haven't slept well.
Right. When we're sleep deprived, our emotional balance goes out the window.
So true. What else?
He also talks about body language.
Wait, like power poses and stuff?
Yes, remember those. Turns out there's actual science behind them. The book even talks about studies where people purposely mimicked, like, the posture and language of depression.
No way.
And they actually started feeling more depressed. It shows you the mind-body connection is a real thing.
So, like, if you change your physical posture, it can actually shift your mood.
It can. Isn't that wild?
Totally wild.
Right.
What else? Give me more.
Okay. Let's not forget about exercise.
Oh, yes. Exercise is my therapy.
You too. And it's not just for physical health, right? It's a powerhouse for mental and emotional well-being.
It's true. Like, after a good workout, I feel so much lighter, more energized, no matter how bad I felt before.
Right. It's like magic. And then there's visualization, tapping into the power of your subconscious.
Ooh, visualization. I've heard about that.
Meurisse explains how by vividly imagining yourself experiencing a desired emotion, like feeling confident before a presentation, you can basically trick your brain into feeling it for real.
That's so cool, like a mental dress rehearsal for your emotions.
Exactly. And it's not just about visuals. The book also talks about the power of words, using strong affirmative language.
Like saying I will instead of I'll try.
You got it. Saying I will can significantly boost your confidence.
Wow, I love how practical this all is, like real things we can actually do.
I know, right? Oh. And Meurisse provides specific techniques for using positive affirmations effectively.
I've tried affirmations before, but they never seem to work for me. What's the secret?
Well, we can dive into those after a quick recharge.
So before the break, you were about to tell me the secret to making affirmations actually work.
Oh, right. Yeah, it's not just about repeating random phrases, you know?
Yeah, I've definitely tried that, and it just felt kind of pointless.
Yeah, it's got to be more intentional than that.
So what's the key?
Well, Meurisse suggests framing affirmations in the present tense.
Present tense. So like instead of saying, I will be confident, I should say,
I am confident.
I am confident.
Got it. It's about embodying that feeling right now, not putting it off for some future version of yourself.
That makes sense. Like own it in the present moment.
Exactly. And another tip, try to avoid negative phrasing.
Negative phrasing. Okay, so like
instead of saying, I am not afraid, you could say,
I am courageous.
There you go.
Okay, so positive and present tense. Got it. Anything else?
Don't forget the power of visualization.
Oh, right. We were talking about that before.
As you're saying those affirmations, really see and feel yourself embodying those qualities.
So it's not just about the words themselves, but the whole experience.
Exactly. Make it a full-on sensory experience.
Okay, I can do that. And how often should I be doing these affirmations?
Consistency is key. Meurisse recommends practicing daily.
Daily. Okay.
Ideally for at least a month to really rewire those neural pathways.
Oh, a month. That's a commitment.
It is. But trust me, it's worth it.
Okay, I'm willing to give it a shot. And you said he had some specific techniques for using affirmations.
He does. He even suggests looking yourself in the eyes in the mirror while you say them.
Really?
In the mirror.
Yeah, I know it sounds a little weird.
It does a little.
But apparently it really amplifies the effect.
Interesting. Okay, I'll try it. Anything else in this emotional mastery toolkit?
Oh, there's more. Something as simple as breathing can be super powerful.
Breathing. Like we do that all the time.
I know, right? But we often don't do it consciously.
True. So how can we use our breath to manage our emotions?
Well, slowing down your breath can really help calm anxiety.
Okay, that makes sense.
And Meurisse even mentions a technique called breath of fire.
Breath of fire, what's that?
It's this rapid breathing practice that's supposed to boost energy and clarity.
Wow, sounds intense.
It is. It's an ancient yogic technique.
I'm gonna have to look that one up.
Definitely. And speaking of things that can shift your state, don't underestimate the power of music. Oh yeah, music is definitely my go-to for mood boosting.
Right. The book talks about how uplifting music can instantly lift your spirits.
It's true. Certain songs just have this magical ability to change my whole mood.
Meurisse even gives an example of an athlete who uses custom playlists to get in the zone for competitions.
Wow, that's a great idea. So we can actually choose music to shift our emotional state.
Exactly. Whether you need a burst of energy, a moment of calm, or some inspiration.
Love it. Okay, so we've covered sleep, body language, exercise, visualization, affirmations, breathing, and music. What else?
Well, Meurisse also talks about the impact of our environment.
Our environment, like our physical surroundings.
Yeah, everything from the people we surround ourselves with to the clutter in our home.
Oh, wow. I hadn't really thought about that.
He even shares how just decluttering his desk often gives him a boost of motivation.
Interesting. I'm kind of the opposite.
Really?
Yeah, I need a little organized chaos to feel creative.
That's a good point, and that's actually a key takeaway from this book. There's no one-size-fits-all approach.
It's about finding what works for you.
Exactly. It's about experimenting and figuring out what resonates with you.
So it's not about choosing our emotions like we're picking an outfit.
Not exactly. It's more nuanced than that. Meurisse emphasizes that emotions are messengers, not dictators.
Messengers. What do you mean by that?
He means they're not here to control us, but to guide us.
Okay.
They're signals that maybe our interpretation of reality needs a little adjusting.
Interesting. So, like, if I'm feeling anxious, it's a sign that maybe I need to reframe the situation?
Exactly. He gives some really inspiring examples in the book, like Alice Summer.
Who's Alice Summer?
She was a woman who found moments of joy even in a concentration camp.
Wow, that's incredible.
And then there's Nick Vujicic, who was born without limbs but lives this amazing, fulfilling life.
Wow, those are some powerful examples of resilience. It's like they chose to focus on what they could control rather than letting their circumstances define them.
Exactly. And Meurisse encourages us all to do the same. To ask ourselves, what are my emotions trying to tell me? What needs to shift in my perception or my actions?
It's about taking responsibility for our own emotional well-being.
Exactly. And using these tools to navigate life's ups and downs with more grace and resilience.
I love that. We've covered so much ground today, from the science of emotions and the role of the ego to practical techniques for mastering our inner world. This book is like a treasure trove of insights.
It really is. And there's one last idea I want to leave you with.
Okay, hit me with it.
Meurisse says problems don't actually exist. They only exist when we focus on them.
Whoa, that's a big statement. It kind of changes your whole perspective on what causes us stress, doesn't it?
Right. If problems are just a matter of focus, then we have way more power than we think to choose where we direct our attention.
It's like that saying, where attention goes, energy flows. If we're always dwelling on what's wrong, that negativity just grows. But if we can shift our focus to the good, to what we're grateful for, to what we can control, then we can create a more joyful and fulfilling experience.
Couldn't have said it better myself. And that's really the essence of this book. It's not about eliminating negative emotions, but learning to understand them, manage them, and even use them as fuel for growth.
I love that. So to our listeners, if you're ready to dive deep into your own emotional world and unlock your potential, definitely check out Thibaut Meurisse's Master Your Emotions.
It's a game changer, for sure.
Well, that's all the time we have for today. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into the fascinating world of emotions.
It's been a pleasure.